We appreciate you tuning in today, listeners. We have a very important topic to discuss in advance of a very special program that our community looks forward to and how we can help the Great Basin Children's Advocacy Center. Today's guests are the program manager for the Advocacy Center, known as the CAC. Tanya Yell is here today. And Tanya, thanks so much for taking time out of a very busy schedule to come and tell us about the center today.
Thank you very much. We're always happy to get the word out and let people know what we can do for them.
Absolutely. We'll talk more about the center. Tyler Ingram is here. He is our Elko County District Attorney. Also, Tyler, very busy schedule, so thanks for carving out some time today.
You're very welcome.
So, Tanya, let's start off with you in talking about what the Great Basin Children's Advocacy Center is and how the community benefits from the center.
Great Basin Children's Advocacy Center provides roundabout services to a victim. We provide a holistic approach, and multidisciplinary team works together. So you have the prosecutor's office, law enforcement, mental health, medical, victim advocacy. We actually have law enforcement officers stationed in our building. We have mental health stationed in our building. We provide services throughout the county of Elko, but also to Eureka, Lander, and White Pine counties as well. So we'll provide medical exams, forensic interviewing, victim advocacy to make sure that they get all the resources that are available to them and so that they know about them, assist them when they're going through the court process, and then also get the mental health so that hopefully they can move on past this and have a successful future. We don't want this to be something that holds them down.
Absolutely. We know that this can be a cycle that is perpetuated, and that by having a center like this can help to break that cycle, certainly, but support the victims, the children, the families that are working together to heal. And so, Tanya, the center, it's actually a physical building all in one location, but it wasn't that long ago, was it? I know your career spans the development of this center there on College Avenue.
Yeah, we did our actual first medical exam in December of 2011. So GBCAC has been providing services to people for a very long time. The center did not open on College Street until we had the opening ceremonies November of 2023. So
a very important facility, again, a community collaboration of which our district attorney, other supporters, a whole team of entities and organizations, and even counties participated to make this a reality. So basically, this is a center for, as we described, victims, children and families who need protection, who've been involved in child abuse investigation and furthers their ongoing treatment. Right, Tanya? Because this is just not a one-off. Sometimes these families need ongoing support.
Absolutely. And also one of the very important things that we provide is information to the community. Prevention is way better than rescuing these kids. So we would much rather stop it from happening. We would much rather have the community educated about the signs of child abuse, what things that they can look out for, what resources are available, have information about what a victim actually looks like, because there's some miscalculations as far as what people think that they should be seeing. And so our informative services are also extremely important.
Yeah, that kind of outreach that we're doing right now that leads to a special event next Tuesday, which we're going to talk about, which is, again, another community collaboration. So we'll come back to you, Tanya. Tanya Yell, is our program manager for the Great Basin Children's Advocacy Center, alongside Tyler Ingram, our county district attorney. Tyler, we were all in the hopes that by creating this center that we would see, and Tanya's going to tell us about some actual numbers, but your office has been busy prosecuting crimes related to the abuse of children, teens, things like trafficking or luring, right? If you wouldn't mind telling us about that.
Yeah, just first of all, I just want the community to know that our CAC is not law enforcement and prosecution centered. That is a byproduct of what happens at that building, but that is not the main focus. The main focus is to ensure the child is healthy and make sure we deal with it so that the child doesn't face the consequences that come along with child abuse and physical abuse later in life. So while we are a part of that team, I don't want to deter anyone from using the services at the CAC because of the prosecution and law enforcement aspect of that.
Because that's really important. There's this stigma about reporting. There's a lot of fear, especially if it's happening in families, right, Tyler? I mean, you want to encourage people to come forward early to report suspicions.
Yeah, absolutely. Earlier is always better for us, especially for prosecution. Yep.
All right. So I think we were going to talk about, the topic that I asked you about.
Yeah,
Yes.
luring.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, luring is probably more on people's minds nowadays than maybe it was 8 months ago or so, or a year ago. And that's because our police department has stepped up their efforts to capture those people who are committing luring crimes. Luring, in a nutshell, is using electronic devices to exactly what it is, lure kids to commit sexual acts on the kid. It's always been around. It's just more notable now because they're really focusing on these perpetrators.
And we do know that there is obviously a lot of manipulation, grooming, things that happen, and that it's happening online. So parents or families or even caregivers, teachers may not know this is happening.
Yeah, it's so easy to commit online and through the use of phones and social media because almost everyone has access to those things. And oftentimes with younger kids, parents aren't monitoring what they're doing on social media for a variety of reasons. But the bottom line is if they're not monitoring what their children's doing, they are more susceptible to falling prey to someone who is trying to lure them.
And that might be something as innocent, seemingly innocent, as playing a video game online. And then if the parent's not aware that there's an aside, a chat where someone that they don't know could be engaging their child.
Yeah, and in most of our recent cases, it does start out innocent. They don't come right out and ask for the sexual stuff. It starts off as a chat, just to, hey, how you doing? And then it can quickly evolve into something much worse.
Something much worse might also include sending photographs. Take a picture, send me your picture, then send me this picture. And then that can be used to manipulate, humiliate, to further degrade the child.
Yeah, many of the recent cases for luring do have a component of sending nude photographs to each other, which you're absolutely right, Lori. Those can be used and often are used for very bad reasons.
And I think Tanya alluded to this, there may be stereotypes, but I mean, is there a typical victim or a demographic? Boys, girls, teenagers?
None. No, everyone can be a victim.
Okay, and that's why it's important that we have these conversations in the community. So Tanya, let's talk about some numbers so people can understand the reality since this center was created. And as our district attorney described, it's to help build a safe community. It's about nurturing, supporting, protecting children and families. There's a separate law enforcement aspect, but this is a center that is focused on, as you said, getting beyond and breaking the cycle.
Absolutely, and I really appreciate that Tyler brought that up, and it really just is an example of how attentive he is to what this program offers. We call it trauma-focused, child-centered. So even when we're talking about the people that we work with, the child is our client in the family. We are there for the kid.
In fact, that's where the family will go for the forensic interview, which can often be the most difficult step in this process, right?
Yeah, being able to talk about what happened to you to a complete stranger can be extremely awkward. So we have some extremely well-trained people that have had a lot of experience speaking with kids. They are not law enforcement. They have a conversation with them. The style of a forensic interview is a narrative style, so it's a conversation back and forth. They're using the kids' words. They're not giving them anything else, and they're letting the kid lead the conversation.
And the building itself is designed as a very supportive, almost a cheerful atmosphere, right?
That's correct. So it's set up so that hopefully the environment is as mellow as possible for the kid, and so even in the medical rooms, we have a room designed for younger children. We have a room designed for older children, and then when they've gone through this process, where we have the mental health being provided to the families, to these children on site. It's actually at the other side of the building with their own special entrance. So just in case, despite our efforts to make it a friendly location, just in case, we give them another place to go through so they're not exposed to all that initial stuff again.
Oh, thank you, Tanya. Tanya Yell is the program manager for our CAC here in Elko. So the forensic interviewing can take place there. That is a setting for professional service providers to get the necessary information about the allegations. There are medical examinations where the doctors and nurses, they actually conduct, the age-appropriate examinations because, again, that's important for the recovery of the victim. Tanya, would you mind telling us about the numbers that we've been seeing? Is it going down?
No, it actually goes up, but we expected that. It's not necessarily because there's some sort of crisis going on. It's because people are learning about the service and maybe being more willing to come out. And that's where the information sharing is very important. So when we first started starting around September, November 2023 is when we started keeping track of better stats. So that year we had, just for that year of 23, we had 27 forensic interviews. We've already had 34 forensic interviews this year, so that's a big change. We had a total of 145 last year in 2025. So we've also made a step up as far as working with victim advocacy. So it's not just the initial meeting that victim advocates have. They're also following up. They're making phone calls. They're attending court. We work with the victim advocate for the DA's office also to attend court with these kids and the parents because it's very stressful. We've had 3 medical examinations so far this year. Last year we had 15 total. We'll see how that goes. We're very grateful for the services from Dr. Jonathan Slothauer with Slothauer Pediatrics and Nora Lusk with Nevada Institute for Forensic Nursing. They provide our exams. Mental health sessions. Last year we had 289 sessions. I don't know just how many we've had this year. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get with Elko Family Wellness Center. They provide our mental health services. But we've also implemented a new method of tracking the mental health services. So we're doing screenings on the children when they enter, while they're in the course of their therapy, and then afterwards so that we get a better register of the improvements and how it's impacting them. So they're not just getting therapy, they're getting better.
Right, and that's so important because, again, some people would hesitate to come forward because they don't know how to change this. They're stuck, right, Tanya? And they don't understand that by engaging in the process, getting the therapy, reporting things early, children can go on to have very normal, very loving, caring lives and just be wonderful human beings who have survived something.
We've also had children that aren't ready to talk. They go to the forensic interview and they don't want to talk. But we get them into therapy, and 6 months later they take a forensic interview and they're actually willing to talk about what happened to them.
So it's important, yes.
Yeah.
Take the time. Sounds like what you're saying, right?
It's very, very important that they get the mental health aspect of this, absolutely.
So some of our conversation might be difficult for people to hear, but again, it's important to our community with the numbers that Tanya's just described. And I think it's also imperative that, we understand the difficulty of the victims themselves. What's the youngest, I guess? What is this span? What is the age span?
The youngest child we could do an interview on would be about 3. Depending on their language skills, we do 3 through 18. We also provide forensic interviews in cases of disability because we would still be the best people to provide that despite what the actual calendar age is. They would obviously conduct medical exams much earlier than that whenever possible. And it's very important that we get this information out there it's painful, but we have to normalize the words. Nobody gets embarrassed saying finger. Nobody gets embarrassed saying toe. Those body parts, you need to be able to use the words. You need to be able to talk to them. As a lot of abusers say, hey, if you don't teach your kids about this, I will. And you don't want them learning from these other people. So the difficulty in talking about it, your average person discloses in their mid-50s.
Wow.
So we need to get that information before it does more damage to the kids early on.
And Tanya, thank you, and I can even let Tyler answer this, because the likelihood if someone is holding on to something into their mid-50s it's quite possible that abuse is continuing. The perpetrator was not, there was no intervention.
Yeah, that's right, because prosecution didn't have a chance to step in and do something about it to deter future conduct or to prevent them from having any access to abuse by way of prison. Often as time passes, we lose evidence for prosecution. Again, it doesn't mean that we can't prosecute it. It just may mean that our case becomes less and less strong as time goes on.
Tyler Ingram is our Elko County District Attorney. The Great Basin Child Advocacy Center does serve neighboring counties too, right, Tyler? That was an important aspect for you.
Yeah, a regional CAC, if you will. That was very important when we started fundraising to actually build the facility here in Elko, is to have buy-in from not only our community but from our surrounding communities, because Elko County was not the only county who didn't have this type of service available. Many of our rural counties do not, and which required children who wanted to take, or families who wanted to take advantage of these services to travel great distances. So by having a center actually here in Elko County, we've placed one much closer to a larger population of rural citizens.
In fact, this luring operation that started last fall that we talked about already, you've had people travel from Winnemucca to Elko to prey on victims, for example. They were seeking people. I think that just tells us how vulnerable we are in rural Nevada in these small communities.
Yeah, it seems that there's no geographical limit to how far a perpetrator will travel to get what he or she wants.
So this is happening in neighborhoods. It's happening in various settings. Another sad aspect of this, Tanya, is that anybody could be the perpetrator, and that's why it's important to report suspicions. I mean, it could be a person in a position of authority or a person who has been trusted by the community. I mean, we have seen that over the years in our community. And again, people need to report these suspicions, right, Tanya?
Absolutely. I mean, that's actually a benefit to them. If the suspicions are reported, we can speak to the kid in a manner that's going to be less traumatic for that child, be able to get an exam to make sure that the child's okay, the child knows that they're okay. And during the course of a forensic interview, it might turn out that it wasn't what people thought. We have had that happen before, that maybe a picture of a thumb in the side of a photograph, somebody thought it was, another body part. So you have to talk these things out, and then you find out, oh, it was a thumb, so.
And that's actually a great outcome, and so people need to know that as well. But it is important. So the best way to report information, is it to go through law enforcement, Tanya, or what are you recommending?
Going through law enforcement is the best way.
Okay, so if you live in the county, you can call the Elko County Sheriff's Office, and you can speak to someone confidentially to get started on the system. And in the city, it's the Elko City Police Department. And I know the City Police Department does have advocates embedded within that they are advocates for victims, right, Tanya?
Yes. Yeah, I work with them as well.
Yes, and that's really important because you want to feel like you're talking to someone who understands the situation, who will believe you, because isn't that a big part of it too?
Oh yeah, it's not your job when you're first getting the information from somebody to make a judgment on. You're just gathering information. Mm-hmm. That's it.
We're talking to Tanya Yell and Tyler Ingram about the Child Advocacy Center located in our community. I wanted to make sure that we promote the special event that's coming up. Tell us about, we used to call it pinwheels for prevention. Is it evolved a bit since then?
Yeah. It's still pinwheels for prevention, or pinwheel planting is what we call it. So yeah, we will be doing that on April 7th. We will also be arranging with some other businesses around town, maybe put them in front of the sheriff's office, try to do the courthouse again. And we're also sending packages to our neighboring counties that we also serve with. We're actually going to White Pine on the 8th. So
very nice. And those pinwheels represent children, hopefully community that has been advocating for those children. But there can be, as you've already alluded to, you're ahead in cases this year. There can be hundreds of cases in the region a year of investigations into child abuse.
Yes, there can. And I don't think we're quite digging into it as much as we could.
So the event is Tuesday and it's Tuesday, April 7th. It's known as the First Tuesday event. It's hosted by the Elko Police Department, and this time around it is the Child Advocacy Center's turn. You'll be hosting at the center there on College Avenue. The focus is on child abuse awareness.
Absolutely. We really appreciate Chief Ward that he started doing this program, and we will be the first time that it's being hosted somewhere other than the airport. So we're kind of nervous but excited about that as well, and looking forward to seeing everybody. We'll have a coloring contest. We'll be doing the pinwheel planting. We have a raffle, presentations, not just presentations about like abuse, but also other things that could be going on, like services for your kids and things like that, or parents that are feeling overwhelmed. Where do you go for help? Things like that.
A lot of great sponsors for our April Community First Tuesday. It is an Elko-centered event, but people from all around the region are invited. There'll be lots of important information. You'll get to see the center, which is a great little spot. You have a big metal sculpture of a pinwheel right out front.
Yes, we do.
And a great location on College Avenue. It's the site of first it was an LDS church. It was converted into a police station for a while, and now it serves as this home for this beautiful center, which is also in the vicinity of the park and across from the Nevada Gold Mines Aquatic and Recreation Center.
Yes.
So it worked out great.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah. So, Tanya, I want to make sure, and we can come back to you, but I want to make sure people know how they can continue to support. You are a nonprofit organization too, right?
Yeah, so Great Basin Children's Advocacy Center started as a nonprofit, and we still have a nonprofit section. It's called Friends of Great Basin Children's Advocacy Center. They actually have a Facebook page and an email that you can reach out to, and they still accept donations on behalf of GBCAC. So you can submit them and earmark it. You can say, I only want this to go to paying for supplies for exams, or I only want this to pay for gas so that you can make sure that these kids don't have to pay for travel. You can say what you want to use it for, and we'll make sure it goes to that cause.
Thank you, Tanya. Thank you for the work that you do, the continued work that you do. We really appreciate you very much. And of course, she is the program manager. The Great Basin Children's Advocacy Center supports, nurtures, protects children and families who are involved in child abuse investigation and treatment. It is a child-friendly, centered environment that minimizes trauma and fosters healing. So it's an important aspect of our community, and there are several ways you can support it. So, Tyler, thank you again for appearing alongside Tanya today. The more that we can do to talk about this and normalize, as you said, all the words and all the issues and all the actions. When I first came to Elko, we didn't talk about breast cancer on the radio because that was a scary word, right? And we talk about breast cancer on the radio as much as we can, right?
Absolutely.
So it's part of creating that awareness because we want to protect our children. As Tanya explained, if we don't do it, somebody else is waiting to.
Yeah, I've been on your program a few times, Lori, and I'm pretty sure I've said this several times, but when we started developing this program, especially when we started really actively fundraising for the facility itself, the most common question, at least that I fielded, is, do we really need a $5 million building? These types of crimes cannot be happening in Elko County. And it's just an awareness issue, is that these crimes have always been happening in Elko County, but just as we've talked about already today, is that there are many reasons why somebody doesn't want to talk about it. Embarrassment's one of them. Worried that the services aren't going to be in place if they do say something. And like Tanya said earlier, I think this is why our numbers were going up. And we're not saying that now. We said that from the very beginning, is that when we were presenting our statistics for, around $5 million to build this, of course the people who gave us the money wanted to know, is it going to be used? And we provided them with the numbers, and those numbers were lower than they are today. But even at that time, we told them that we expect these numbers to keep rising as people become more aware of the services that are available to them. And that's playing out every year so far.
And another goal, obviously, Tyler, has this helped you be successful in prosecuting these people who prey on our children?
Absolutely. That's not to say that we weren't having successful prosecutions before, but the process that's being used now they're best practices. They are the least defensible from defense attorneys who attack the things that are done throughout these investigations. They are more child-friendly. So a child is going to be, hopefully, more willing to engage in the process that is required of them for a prosecution, like coming into court and testifying. And having that mental health aspect to address the children's mental health needs before trial and after trial is, in my opinion, one of the greatest parts of our CAC.
Right. And again, the most important part, too, in breaking that cycle, just like domestic violence, often this is something that has gone unreported in families, and a conversation to elevate so that we can help victims recover and that we don't perpetuate these terrible crimes that tear at our hearts and our families and the people we love and we care about.
Yeah.
So thank you, Tyler, very much. A quick shout out to the Elko Police Department's Canine Trigger. This is just another example that you are evolving too at the CAC and acquiring new tools. Trigger is an electronic device sniffing dog.
Yeah, he's awesome. I love that dog.
He's so soft.
Yeah, it is. I think Tanya has the same goal as I do. I know she does. Is that we don't want to just stay status quo. We want to continue to grow. We want to continue to offer more services than we offered the year prior. And this is an example. Canine Trigger has already been involved in several cases and has already been amazing at it. So we hope to keep adding things like this. And although that is a police department dog, that's not a CAC dog. He is stationed at our CAC, so we get to see him pretty often.
Nice. Great
And
cuddler.
The
Yeah.
501c3 actually contributed to part of the cost.
Oh, yes, very important. So when you become a friend of the Great Basin Child Advocacy Center, you can support future endeavors like acquiring Trigger, who goes after those electronic devices. Just a quick explanation. So if someone has images, conversations on their phone, their devices, they're trying to hide them, right? Because they'll have extra devices that they use for these things, and then don't know what you're talking about, right? Well, Trigger comes in and finds those devices.
He does, yeah. The correct terminology now is child sexual abuse material. More commonly, it was referred to as child pornography, but those images, photograph, video, whatever, often stored on an electronic storage device like a USB, a thumb drive, various types of storage devices. And as I understand it, I'm certainly not an expert in these search dogs, but all of these devices that store images are treated with a particular chemical that this dog is trained to detect. So yeah, I have not seen Canine Trigger ever miss a device. So yeah, the dog will come and assist in a search for those devices, and of course we don't want those being further disseminated. So having those and out of the public's view is the goal.
Thank you for letting me know child sexual abuse material, because that's an important distinction, because there are different social values around other descriptions, I understand.
Yeah, we often refer to it as CSAM. Yep.
Okay.
Pornography suggests consent, and there was no consent there.
Thank you for explaining that. I hope that's helpful to a lot of people listening. It definitely was helpful to me. So we're going to shift gears a little bit before we excuse our guest today so they can get back to their busy agendas. Tyler Ingram, our district attorney, is congratulations. You are going to be launching your third term. You are unopposed in the general election, and I said this, and I think that it shows that the community has confidence in you and the work that you've accomplished.
Yeah, I appreciate that. That's definitely humbling. It's a long 2 weeks during that filing period to see if someone is going to oppose. But that is our process. I was prepared for it if it was going to happen. I'm thankful that it didn't, and I'm also honored to have one more term with Elko County.
And then you'll be term limited, is that right?
I will not. There are no term limits for my position.
That's what I wondered,
Yep.
but that's just what you're willing to commit to.
At this point, yep. One more term.
Okay, well, my heart just chipped a little bit, but I understand. You've got a family, and they're growing, and yeah, you don't want to miss out on any of those opportunities. Well, Tyler, the one thing I did want to ask you about, it came up in a public city council meeting recently. We do know that that racketeering has been mentioned, and I wanted to ask you about that, if you can explain, because it does sound like a really big city crime, right?
Yeah, it is. It is a big word. And, first of all, I just want to preface with what I'm going to say is that I'm not a racketeering expert. And the reason for that is because We have not prosecuted many racketeering cases in Elko County, and I'm going to assume, I hope safely, that most rural counties don't have a ton of experience with our racketeering statutes. When we talk about racketeering, I think most people would think of RICO, which is a federal act that stands for Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act. So these big, notable racketeering cases are often handled by the federal government. So out of our jurisdiction into federal jurisdiction. But Nevada does have a racketeering statute. It is relatively complex compared to some of our other statutes. In fact, there's pages and pages and pages of definitions and crimes surrounding racketeering in the Nevada revised statutes. I think the most simple way to explain what racketeering is that if someone commits 2 or more of the crimes that are listed in our statute, and there's 37 of them, if they commit 2 or more of those within a 5-year period for some sort of profit, whether it be like a criminal syndicate or an enterprise, gaining title to real property, things like that. So the easiest way to think about it is 2 or more crimes committed within a 5-year period, those crimes that are listed in the 37 in our statute, if they're done for profit.
So it is important to know that there are patterns of activity. It is referred to as an enterprise. I'm just looking at a definition I pulled up. Racketeering is rarely solo. It often involves a structured group. So the fact that there is investigation going on, it probably suggests that something people locally could and should be aware of, right, Tyler? And they should report suspicious things.
Yeah, absolutely. I said that we rarely prosecute this case, and in fact, I confirmed before I came in here today that we do have one active prosecution that involves racketeering, and we have a case that has now been resolved where more than one person pled to racketeering or some form of racketeering. So this is something that I think it's a great tool for prosecutors, for deterrence, for retribution, for all of those criminal justice philosophies that people are probably familiar with. And this may be something that we turn to more often, especially as we become more familiar with it. All the enumerated crimes or the listed crimes in our racketeering statute are things that we deal with on the regular, but this racketeering statute adds different elements that are sometimes not the easiest to prove. But we have had cases that were very well investigated that put together a very good racketeering case. So we could see more of these prosecutions in the future.
All right. Thank you, Tyler. Again, just to let listeners know, even in our small community, some of the red flags, a protection racket is where criminals threaten a business with damage, then offer quote-unquote protection from that damage for a fee. There are fraud schemes, bankruptcy fraud, securities fraud, mail or wire fraud that's used to steal money. Money laundering is also a concern, disguising the proceeds of illegal drug trafficking or other crimes to make them appear legitimate. And then finally, corruption or bribery. That would be illegally influencing public officials or employees to facilitate illegal business. So if people have concerns about that, take them to law enforcement, right, Tyler? That's the first step.
Yeah, and I'm gonna relate back to our CAC conversation as well. It applies there as much as it applies to any other crime. And that is, if you see something, say something. Law enforcement is trained to not only prove that something happened, but prove that it didn't happen. So there may be, and there are, situations where somebody reports something and it turns out to be nothing. Wonderful. That's fine. But if we don't say something, it never gets investigated and we don't find the truth.
Tyler Ingram is our district attorney. Tanya Yell is the program manager for the Great Basin Child Advocacy Center. We appreciate your time. I hope we got to the topics you were hoping to today, Tyler.
I wanted to get to whatever topic you wanted to get to.
Well, that was very kind. That gives me a wide license, and then I always think, oh, did I get to enough things? But there'll be another time, I'm sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Tanya, thank you so much. I will definitely see you on Tuesday. Looking forward to seeing Trigger and all of the supporters of CAC and sending more people your way.
Thank you very much, Lori.
Thank you, Tanya. Thank you, listeners, for joining us for Elko Live today here on KELK.